Good evening, everyone. Our topic for today is gender perspective, and the presenters are Atjansa Ariel Joy, Miss Cars, Laurelyn Jane Casal, and Janella Venus. Proponent of the perspective. John Money was a psychologist and sexologist who researched gender identity and sexual preferences and coined the terms gender identity and gender role. John Money was born July 8, 1921 in Morrisville, New Zealand. Died on July 7, 2006 in Towson, Maryland, United States. He taught philosophy and psychology as a junior lecturer at the University of Otago before relocating to the United States to pursue graduate studies. Money received his doctorate from Harvard University in 1952, and he became a professor of medical psychology and pediatrics at Johns Hopkins University, where she was heavily involved with the sexual behavior unit, which studied sex reassignment surgery. He received an award for American Psychological Association Distinguished Scientific Award for the Applications of Psychology in 1985, and the Masters and Johnson 4th Annual Award Society for Sex Therapy in 1988, and an award for his contributions to sexology research from the International Academy of Sex Research in 1991. John Money works continues to be referenced in the field of gender and sex research. Money coined the terms gender role and gender identity. He emphasized that one's gender role traits associated with one's public presentation of gender had to be learned. For example, a woman who wears a dress and high heels is publicly displaying a cultural accepted female gender role, which is learned behavior. Gender identity, on the other hand, illustrates one's internal experience of sexuality. John Money was one of the first scientists to acknowledge that one's biological sex may not correspond with his or her gender identity. Money urged researchers to move away from a strict dichotomy between heterosexual and homosexual. He developed the concept of the love map to characterize a person's idealized partner and sexual preferences. There are heterosexual and homosexual love maps, as well as love maps associated with sexual preferences and kinks. Money studied pedophilia in particular, and he identified a distinction between love-based attraction to children and sadistic pedophilia. Sadistic pedophiles, according to Money, abuse and sometimes even kill their victims. Affectional pedophilia, by contrast, was due to eroticized parental love, and Money emphasized that this type of pedophilia had little to do with sex. Some critics claim that Money was tolerant of pedophilia, though others have welcomed his research as a better way of understanding inappropriate sexual attractions. Now may I call Miss Janella to further discuss our topic.
Thank you, Ms. Juarez. What is gender perspective? The gender perspective pays particular attention to gender-based disparities in status and power and takes into account how such discrimination affects both the short and long-term needs of women and men. An approach to designing, implementing, monitoring, and evaluating policies and programs in all political, economic, and sociological realms from gender equality ensures that both men and women gain equality and that inequality is not maintained. It is a gender and human rights-based approach to social protection requires states to ensure that social protection programs are designed, implemented, and monitored taking into account the differences in the experiences of women and men. Ang ating gobyerno ay mayroon ng mga batas patungkol dito at kasalukuyang tinatamasan ng bawat isa. Mayroon din mga programa at serbisyo, gayon din ang mga samahan o organisasyon na naglalayong mapangalaga ng ating karapatang pantao at pangkasarian. Gender-related discriminations, bullying, inequality that both men and women experiences are the main priority of this perspective. Here are the definition of terms under this perspective. Gender in development, or the GAD, refers to the development perspective and process that is participatory and empowering, equitable, sustainable, free from violence, respectful of human rights, supportive of self-determination and actualization of human potentials. It seeks to achieve gender equality as a fundamental value that should be reflected in development choices and contends that women are active agents of development, not just passive recipients of development. Same with the definition of gender perspective, but this one has something to do with what we call development. It mainly focuses on achieving gender equality that will serve as the foundation of this approach wherein gender development is empowered and emphasized. Next one is gender equality. This refers to the principles asserting the equality of women and men and their right to enjoy the equal conditions, realizing their full human potentials to contribute and to benefit from the results of development, and with the state recognizing that all human beings are free and equal in dignity and rights. This term is very familiar for us ever since we are in high school. Gender equality is about the word itself, equality. Pagkakapantay-pantay ng lahat, anuman ang kasarian mo. Everyone is entitled to enjoy what the others also enjoys regardless of the status, gender, and the level of needs. This will allow everyone to participate and will help them to think deeply about their full potentials as a human being that will not only benefit themselves but as well as the development of our country. Another one is gender equity. Means giving more opportunities to those who have less and those who are historically and socially disadvantaged based on their needs for them to operate on a level playing field. Focusing on the needs of women does not mean discriminating against men or putting them at a disadvantage. If we are going to analyze what gender equity is all about, differentiating from the gender equality, the gender equity is evident when there is equal provisions of instrumental programs, policies, and services to everyone regardless of the gender, but with regards to the level of their needs. For instance, when a woman needed more than the man, then this approach will allow women to receive more according to the level of her needs, and this will stop when the goal of equality of opportunity and treatment have been achieved. The last one is sex and gender. Sex refers to the biological characteristics that categorize someone as either female or male, whereas gender refers to the socially determined ideas and practices of what it is to be a female or male. Ang kadalasang kinalilituhan ng karamihan, ano nga ba ang difference between the term sex and gender? Pag sinabi po nating sex, ito yung biological na katangian na nagsasabi na ang isang tao ay babae o lalaki. Yung penis na para sa lalaki at vagina na para sa babae ay isa sa mga distinctive characteristics ng bawat isa sa atin biologically to distinguish our sex or kasarian in Tagalog. While to differentiate it from sex, ang gender naman ay puno ng mga norms o kadalasang standard na galing sa mga tao sa isang komunidad na kung ano para sa kanila ang dapat na ikinikilos na o ginagawa ng isang babae o lalaki. Kaya nga ito ay nasabing na socially determined kasi base lang ito sa isang society. And this may vary in every society that we have based on their own standard of the gender identity of men and women. And now, I'm giving the floor to Miss Atienza to further discuss our topic.
Now let's head on to examples of gender perspective. First is providing childcare facilities in public work programs or employment guarantee schemes, keeping work hours flexible to accommodate time for domestic responsibilities, and establishing sex quotas in governance structure of social protection programs to increase women's protection. It shows how childcare services or facilities become a factor of creating more opportunities for every woman to participate or engage themselves in a workplace. So one simple example of this is a family. So sa family who usually work, it's the father. Yun na yung nakasanayan. Pag usually tinanong bakit sila yung gumagawa nun, the answer is because that's their responsibilities, period. But if we look to the other side, yung responsibility sa house, especially sa pag-aalaga ng bata, Yun yung isang factor why ang mga babae hindi nakakapagtrabaho. It hinders the capabilities of a woman to provide for their own and their families. Another example is the comprehensive publicly funded social pension scheme for women. This is in consideration to higher life expectancy of a woman, yung variability in labor force participation between genders. Minsan, di ba, may cases wherein there comes the unpaid work, so kawawa sila. Minsan, may mga babae and even man na nakakaranas nun. Additionally, this scheme can compensate for women's lack of access to contributory pension schemes as well as their low income and saving levels na na-reach nila during nung time na nagtatrabaho pa lang sila. Last is the social protection programs. This is accessible to both male and female. It allows both genders to feel they are included, especially sa workplace. Both parties must be given equal opportunities in decision making and ma-ensure na they are belong, especially may iwasang maiparamdam lalo na sa kababaihan na they are less and ineffective lalo na sa male-dominated settings. Ito yung programs na ina-acknowledge niya yung role ng woman as care providers without reinforcing patterns of discrimination and negative stereotyping. So that ends our discussion. Thank you for listening.